Hello, good morning. Can everybody hear me? In the back? All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm coming from São Paulo, from Brazil. My name is Felipe Croce, and I'm a coffee farmer and trader from Faf Coffees. My family's been in coffee for over 100 years, so I would be the fourth generation. But my parents moved to the US when I was 3, and I grew up in the United States. And coincidence brought me back to the farm. My parents had been switching towards organic since 2000. My mom had become attuned to organic since 1980s when she became a beekeeper, and she saw the effects of the chemicals on the bees. And I came back to the farm in 2009 and helped to join my parents on this journey. So I will share a little bit with you. Thank you. Does this work? Yeah. Before I start, how many of you work in coffee? If you can raise your hand, please. Great. Good. So it's a good mix. How many of you are aware that there's a crisis in coffee right now? All right. More than 50%. Great. We have a serious crisis in coffee. And it's not just in coffee, it's in agriculture and it's in the world. And coffee could become extinct pretty soon. We could be the last generation to drink coffee every day and to know coffee the way we do as our companion on this journey. So I moved back to the farm in 2009, and we started looking for people to buy our organic coffee. And at the moment, we found people wanting quality coffee, specialty coffee. And in fact, we were known for quality coffee for a long time. People found us. Calvin found us because he was looking for quality Brazilian coffee. And the conversation was around the cupping table, as we call it, the tasting table. And over time, we began to change who we are, how we talk about ourselves as a company. And I will share a little bit with you about our journey, what we've done. And it's an ongoing process. But I can say that customers who come to us are no longer, coffee quality has to be there, but it's no longer what brings people in the door. So in coffee, we have the following top 10 producing countries. And coffee is produced within the tropics. As you can see, we have a reduction in 2 of the 3 biggest global producers. Vietnam, which is the world's second biggest producer, has been having consecutive years of trouble and choosing to reduce their production for durian and lots of other things. And we have an industry increasingly concentrated on Brazil. So we have about 40% of the world's production based on Brazil. And although I'm Brazilian, that does not make me very happy because we are getting in an unprecedented global scenario of supply and demand, where for the first time in history, the market is limited by the supply and no longer by the demand. So in the past 5 years, since 2020, we have had a global deficit of production. And that's for many reasons, but we have an increase in consumption in mainly Asia, China, India, Pakistan, 3 of the top 5 biggest populations of the world, previously tea drinking countries, and now a lot of the new generation drinking coffee. And we've had climate issues in pretty much every single coffee producing country. Here is a map of Brazil today by local scientists. And in the green, you see the area that is adequate for producing coffee. In the pink, you see area that is adequate for producing coffee with irrigation. This is Arabica coffee. The rest is not adequate for coffee, either too dry, too hot, or too cold. Now, in these two maps, you see the scenario from 2060 to 2080. And on the map to the left, you see the more optimistic scenario. Now, we have not hit a single optimistic target in the last 50 years. So what you also see is the green has shifted south and the pink is almost gone. So the problem with that is that where the green is now located has other crops. There's no history of coffee there. There's no infrastructure for coffee. And there's soy, there's cattle, there's corn, there's rice, there's other things to compete. And also tourist areas that are very valuable land and could not produce coffee. So it is widely feared that by the year 2050, more than half of the area that is planted in coffee will be no longer able to produce coffee unless we do something. And so we're talking about an industry that's becoming heavily concentrated in Brazil. And so what does that mean? The other problems that we're seeing is on the left, an article that came out a couple of weeks ago in a newspaper in Brazil, where the scientists are starting to analyze the rainwater in several of the cities in the state of São Paulo, where I live. And they're finding many agrotoxic chemicals, harmful, cancer-causing harmful agrotoxic chemicals in the rainwater in the cities. So rain is no longer innocent. People are spending thousands and thousands of dollars to go on wellness retreats, preventative medicine, taking all kinds of supplements, and then you walk outside and you're having agrotoxic, cancer-causing chemicals being rained on you. On the right, there is I took a piece from the US Department of Health, and it says that today, over 40% of adults in the US have the chance of getting cancer. So if you think how the world is evolving, if you have 2 children, more than likely one of them will get cancer in their lifetime. This is the world we're heading to. And increasingly more climate disasters. So last year, we had a drought, a severe drought in Brazil. And August and September were the worst months in terms of heat and drought, and the deficit of water in the soil was more than 300 millimeters. And coffee is a resilient plant, but it cannot withstand more than 200 millimeters. So what happened was a reduction in 12.4% of the country's production. What does that mean, 12.4%? Doesn't sound like that much. But if you think that Brazil is the biggest producing country in the world, it's 14 million bags. 14 million bags is the equivalent to the production of the entire country of Colombia, which is the 3rd biggest producer in the world. And what does that mean? Well, that's what Kelvin said. This price, and depending on the day, has gone from $1.70 per pound on the New York Stock Exchange to well over $4. And it's been changing daily. So this creates complete chaos for businesses, for people. And I estimate that coffee prices still have not hit the final consumer, as companies have been taking on that, but using old inventory. But you should see by July record coffee prices all over the world. This is what happened. This picture on the left is a conventional monoculture farm, 60 kilometers from my farm. And it's a farm that's monoculture, heavily use of pesticides, herbicides, soil is compacted, and it just did not have enough water in the soil to stay alive. And these trees, if they did not die, they lost 100% of production. On the right, you see my farm same conditions, but what you have here is an agroforestry system where you have many things, but you have trees forming windbreakers. Air is the biggest cause of dehydration, and protecting air, trees protecting the temperature, lots of biodiversity. We have found ways to reduce in 80% the evapotranspiration. So what can we do? You know, a lot of us nowadays, we feel frustrated. We feel like we have nothing that we can do. We don't have land to plant trees. So how can we do this? It's not an easy answer, and sustainability is a discipline. It's like anything in life. It's like going to the gym. You need to consistently go, you need to show up, you need to get better. I would argue that none of us born in modern society are sustainable people, and we have to work on it day in, day out. And in our farm, we started to work on, with our team as well, how can we put this into our company so that it's natural, so that everyone is trying to find new systems. And what we did was, with a workshop, we created a purpose that is to inspire and empower the entire coffee industry, farmers all the way to consumers, to be the protagonists of a future model that benefits all. And there's a philosopher that I like from the United States who he talks about, has a book called Hero Has a Thousand Faces. And the hero's fallacy is that everyone wants to be the hero of their own story. They want to be the protagonist. So it's one thing for me to talk about what I'm doing. It's another thing if I inspire you for you to do something. And that's where we need to get to, where everyone is becoming the hero. So what we did was we hired some consultants to see what people thought about us. And they called our customers, they came back to us and they said, they understand you talk about sustainability, they think you're sustainable, but they don't know how. They don't understand why. And they don't really know how to talk about it. So we created a seminar. We decided to do something different. And we did a week of talks. We brought in customers. Most customers had been with us for more than 10 years. So we brought Kelvin. I had known Kelvin since 2012. We had done business for 11 years, and we'd seen each other once. And we trusted each other. We sent him coffee. He paid on time, liked the coffee, but there was never too much more than just the quality and the coffee. And so we thought about it and we said, let's connect, let's reconnect. And so we brought CEOs, head of marketing, sales, from lots of different companies from around the world. And we brought speakers, people that we were doing partnerships with. And we did not sell a single bag of coffee. In fact, we did this on the off season. And we didn't have any coffee to sell. We didn't taste any coffee besides just drinking. We talked about everything else besides coffee. Because you need to put time into the schedule to work on these things, or else it will always be left for tomorrow. And this was a very interesting experience because we increased our sales last year in 37%. And a lot of customers have come to us via LinkedIn, via emails, calling, Instagram, podcasts that we've done, that have come for us not for our quality, but because they want to be part of intentional sourcing. They want to understand regenerative farming. And so the investment we've done and customer acquisition has never been cheaper. So I'll share a little bit about what we're trying to do on the farm. This is very coffee specific, but when you get into it, there's a technical side, a geeky side, but I really enjoy it. So where we farm coffee, we consider that we have impact points. And they're mostly water, soil, climate, and biodiversity. I'm talking only about environmental because we can go into social, we can go into economics. At the moment, it's just environmental. So if we're serious about what we do, we need to have a methodology, we need to have a measuring system, we need to have a commitment to improve. And that's what we're trying to create. So we created a system we call the Fafa High Nature Value. And basically, that's trying to put things in boxes. So specialty coffee has a success story in the quality Q grading system, which is a sommelier. Because when my grandfather was farming coffee, he would say, I have a good coffee. And his neighbor would say, I have a great coffee. And everyone had the best coffee in the world. But the system was, this has a defect, this does not have a defect. And that was it. But with calibration and a language, there was a system created that was 0 to 100 points, where people from Brazil, Malaysia, Russia, the US, we could take a coffee and we could say, that's an 83, that's an 85, that's an 87, and we could pay farmers differently. And people like Calvin can put them, this one goes into a hotel coffee, this one goes into a bakery espresso, this one goes into a beautiful filter coffee made by a very good barista on a special occasion. And so if we want to do something with sustainability, we need to be able to say, this is sustainable coffee. How sustainable is it? And the system is evolving. It's coffee specific, but 0 is monoculture conventional and everything that has to do with that, fungicide, pesticide, and we call that a sleep. The hardest jump is from a 0 to a 1, and that's to get people awake, to change the culture. Coffee is a very conservative industry, and so we call it a 1, a 2, and a 3. So a 0 looks like 5 times fungicides, 5 times herbicides, 6 times pesticide, potassium chloride, which is made out of chlorine, nitrogen fertilizers that are high in saline, which is salt, which is compacting, drying out the soils, nitrogen that's made from petroleum from Russia, Ukraine, Norway. It's high in carbon emissions. It's shipped in petrol ships all the way to Brazil, trucked out to farms, and excessive use of irrigation, erosion, and so on. Step 1, we start to care about the soil. And the whole process is to challenge the farmer to think about life, cover the soil, start to reduce use of pesticides. Number 2, we start to add compost. We start to add biologicals, solutions. We start to add trees. And level 3 is starting to do what we call an indigenous way of farming, which is agroforestry. And agroforestry, we have a minimum of 50 trees per hectare we've established, which is a couple of famous soil scientists in Brazil have found that at 50 trees per hectare, you start to create under the soil, the forest intelligence. There's a web of soil, of roots, fungi that communicate together under the soil. So it goes on. It's very coffee specific. This is our biofactory we created on the farm. So we work with over 400 farms in our region. And we make bacteria, fungi solutions for almost all the diseases we find in coffee. We do not have any problems with diseases on the farm, and we're organic. So this is what a 0 looks like on the left. You can see that the soil is exposed. It's a very high quality managed farm, but you see there's a lot of runoff down to his lake. You should never see soil exposed in nature. That's not normal. That's like having a wound that's open. So if you see soil that's exposed, that's chemicals, that's herbicide. You should always have some kind of grass, some kind of things. So we train our customers as well to see these things. And on the right, you see a system which is planted a year ago, but it's already a level 3. It has trees on the left, coffee in the middle, and there's grass that's been mulched. This is a level 2. You again see a lot of coverage, keeping the soil moist. And there's a farmer at level 3 that has a lot of avocados, a lot of different things. So this is a regenerative agroforestry system. And it changes for every crop. But coffee likes to be in a strata which is medium, under a certain amount of shade. And this is a fantastic system because it explores stratification vertically and also time. So trees have different amount of times in the system. And you're producing many things out of 1 hectare. So the most common produced food system is soy. From 1 hectare of soy, you can produce 7 tons of food per year. There are agroforestry systems that can produce more than 60 tons of food per hectare per year. And also you're producing clean air, clean water, timber, fruits. It's not so easy to see, but the temperatures in the month of August and September in Brazil. Almost every single day, the temperature was above 30 degrees Celsius, with many days above 35 degrees Celsius. The coffee plant likes to operate at 24 degrees Celsius. Every temperature up and down, it loses 10% of its efficiency, and it shuts off. So this is what caused the picture that you saw before, and it's only getting worse. So for us, part of how we sell our coffee and part of what we do is also the philosophy. And the last thing we want is for coffee to be a luxury product just for rich people. Of course, I think there's the best coffee, there's coffees for every moment, but how can we do that? How can we make our coffee available for everyone? And we started to look at all of the different productions that we have. And so what comes out of the tree is you have different size beans, different shapes. Traditionally, specialty coffee only bought the top 50%. And the bottom 50% was mixed into the local market. So we started to look at this. And I got my inspiration from other industries as well. Near my office in the city in São Paulo, there's a sustainable family farmed meat. And they sell, it's not organic, but very sustainable meat. And in COVID, the meat started to get a lot more expensive. And so instead of going to the supermarket and asking for the same premium cut, but cheaper, I asked the family, I said, what else do you have? What's your second, third, what other cuts do you produce? Because I would rather buy from that farm, from that farmer, and from that area. So we started to make briskets and burgers and all kinds of things like that. So I was wondering, can other people think like that about coffee, for example? So we decided that to talk like this to our customers as well, which goes against the way specialty coffee, because specialty coffee is a new industry, and in my opinion, I think it's become a little bit elitist. It's become only focused on the top microlots, and there are moments for different things, and consumers have different moments. You have a time when you have a coffee in the office, you have a time when you have a coffee at a hotel, and then you have a moment that you want some of the best of the best. But you want it to come from a healthy soil, from healthy farms. So maybe you know some of these foods. The first one is feijoada, which is a Brazilian stew, which was made for the slaves back in the day, which the second, third, all the intestines, they were cooked, and it's the most delicious, in my opinion, dish we have in Brazil. I would say maybe some of these soup dishes that you have in Asia, like ramen and pho, they probably come from poverty. They probably come from reusing everything. So the idea of waste is a bit crazy. I had coffee shops for 6 years in the city of São Paulo, and I'm selling to all kinds of people, but to a developing country. And so I started using different products from the farm and different things. One of my favorite coffees that we served was the first one, which we called coado on the rocks. It was ice. We brewed the coffee over ice. We put lime, honey from the farm, and ice. And so We use several of the other ones. I'll skip a little bit toward the end. We do a lot of partnerships with universities. Here we did a partnership with the university and found how many bees we find in the different systems. So we found that in high nature value 3, we found over 70 types of bees, whereas in high nature value 0, there were 1 species of bees. Carbon, we've been testing carbon. What changes from a 0 to a 1 to a 2 to a 3? And those are different systems. ASF4, which is a high nature value 3, we find that we were fixing over 45 tons of carbon per hectare per year. If you take out the coffee shrub, which is in the red, and you take just the green, it's about 30 tons of carbon per year, which we're adding on the trees. So if we take what Kelvin said, that an average Malaysian person emits 8 tons of carbon per year. If you drink, how many of you drink 1 cup of coffee a day? How many of you drink 2 cups of coffee a day? If you drink 2 cups of coffee a day, that's about 800 cups. That's a regenerative coffee. You neutralize your emissions for a year. Good sales pitch, huh? So I know we're running out of time. We have partnerships with verification systems called Inveritas, and I just wanted to leave you guys with an idea. I wanted to bring this to other professions if I didn't work in coffee. One of the things I really like is I'm really into plants. I'm really into garden and landscaping on the farm. Not like the first picture on the left, but this first picture on the left, the landscaping really took off in 19th century UK, France, where people had become really rich. And one of the ways they could show their neighbors that they had become really rich was that they did not have to grow their own food anymore. And to this day, people replicate that same concept of luxury in condominiums, high-end resorts all over the world, and they take their children to go to these places and never see fruits, berries. They never get to know these different things. So if I was a landscaper, I would add local fruits, local berries, local different things back into the system. So I leave that with you. Thank you very much.
We'll have the Q&A towards the end, just before we break for lunch. And the next gentleman coming on is Paul. He's getting suited up with his mic. I hope all of you are able to appreciate something so far. But if it's anything that you can take away from here, is this. I started by telling you this event is created out of love for 2 things, out of love for humanity, out of love for our planet, our only home. But these experts who are coming here have really put in all the years, all the suffering, all the pain, sweat, sometimes blood, and a lot of tears to go through the trial, research, and mistakes to finally discover the solution, the template, and framework that they're going to share with you. And what they're sharing is the shortcut. It's all simplified for you. You don't have to go through that pain anymore. In fact, you can take the framework and the solution and the model and modify it and innovate it and make it even better. So there are all kinds of heroes. They are a different type of heroes. They don't wear capes. They're the heroes who pave a new way of doing things, help you shift and think of a new way of looking at your business, your way of living. So I hope you take it in that spirit